I kept my money in one place, then none. I asked, why is it gone? He didn't even deny it. You'll thank me one day. Then I realized he wasn't. I remember standing there with the lockbox in my hands, just staring at it like something inside would magically reappear if I waited long enough. It didn't. It felt lighter than it should have been, like it wasn't even mine anymore. I had counted it that morning. I always did. I knew exactly how much was in there. I kept track of everything, every dollar from my shifts at the grocery store in Cary. I wasn't careless. I wasn't guessing. And now it didn't match. At first, it wasn't obvious. A few dollars missing here and there. Enough to make me doubt myself. I told myself I probably spent it and forgot. Maybe I miscounted. Maybe I was just tired. But it kept happening. So I started writing it down. Every dollar I earned, every dollar I touched. I split my money into different hiding spots to see if it would stop. It didn't. It just disappeared faster. That's when I stopped pretending I didn't know. That night, I walked into the living room. Scott was sitting on the couch, watching TV like everything was normal. Like nothing had changed. Why is my money gone? I asked. He didn't even look surprised. Just reached for the remote, lowered the volume, and leaned back. What money? He said. My money. From my room. He looked at me for a second, then gave this small shrug. You live here, don't you? My stomach dropped. That's not yours. It's in my house, he said. I turned to my mom. She was in the kitchen, wiping the counter over and over like it needed it. Mom? She didn't look at me right away. Then finally, quietly, he'll pay you back. Scott laughed under his breath. And that was it. No argument. No explanation. Just done. Something in me went quiet after that. Not angry. Not loud. Just shut down. Because I understood something I didn't want to understand. No one was going to fix this. After that, it wasn't just the cash. He'd take my debit card and say he grabbed the wrong one. He'd ask me for money like it was normal, like I owed him something for living there. And if I hesitated, he'd remind me exactly what I cost. I started hiding money everywhere. Inside books. In old shoes. Taped under my desk. It didn't matter. It always disappeared. And the worst part wasn't even losing it. It was how normal it became. I stopped buying things for myself. Stopped going out. Every dollar became something I had to protect, even though I knew I couldn't. I'd sit on my bed at night, counting what I had left, trying to figure out how long until I turned 18. That was the only number that mattered. 2 years felt like forever. There were moments I thought about telling someone. A teacher. A friend's parent. Anyone. But then I'd picture what would happen after. Questions. Consequences. Being stuck there anyway, just with everything worse. So I didn't. I just learned how to survive around him. I learned what times he was home. What rooms he went into. What things he noticed. I stopped leaving anything out in the open. I kept everything quiet, small, hidden. But none of it changed the fact that he could take whatever he wanted. And no one was going to stop him. The day I turned 18, I didn't celebrate. I just left. I had already packed most of my stuff in pieces over weeks, so it wouldn't be obvious. Clothes, important papers, anything that mattered. I didn't take much. Just what I could carry without making it a scene. My mom hugged me at the door. I'm glad you're doing this, she said, like this was some normal step in life. Scott didn't even get up from the couch. Good luck, he said. Not in a kind way. More like he already knew something I didn't. I didn't say anything back. I walked out, got in my car, and didn't look back. I ended up in a small studio apartment in Troy. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I worked constantly. 2 jobs at first, then one better one once I figured things out. I didn't sleep much. Didn't go out. Didn't really have a life. But no one touched my money. That was enough. Over time, things got better. Slowly. I moved into a job as a teller, then worked my way into a broker position. Numbers started making sense in a different way. Systems. Control. Structure. Things I never had growing up. I kept contact with my mom minimal. A few texts here and there. Holidays I didn't go to. Messages I didn't answer. Scott never reached out. Years passed like that. Quiet. Controlled. Safe. Until one day, my phone rang. It was my mom. I almost didn't answer. But I did. Her voice was shaking. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just tired. We need help, she said. We need help. I didn't say anything at first. I just held the phone there, listening to her breathe like she was trying not to fall apart on the other end. What kind of help? I asked. There was a pause. We're behind on everything. That word, everything, told me more than she probably meant it to. How behind? I said. Another pause. Longer this time. It's bad. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling of my apartment in Troy. I could already feel that old weight pressing in, the same one I used to carry when I was still in that house. The difference now was, I didn't have to stay. I can't help you, I said. It came out calm. Flat. Like I had already decided before she even called. I know, she said quickly. I know, I didn't know who else to call. I almost hung up. But then she started crying. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just quiet, like she was trying to keep it contained. That made it worse somehow. I don't know what to do, she said. And that's when something shifted. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't even sympathy. It was recognition. For the first time, they needed something from me. Not the other way around. I'll meet you, I said. We met at a small cafe in Troy a few days later. I got there early, picked a table near the window where I could see them coming in. When they walked in together, I almost didn't recognize him. Scott looked smaller. Not physically, exactly. Just worn down. Like something had finally caught up to him. He saw me and forced a smile. Hey, like we were just catching up. I nodded. Sit. My mom sat first. He followed, slower. For a few minutes, it was awkward. Small talk. Questions about my job, my apartment. Things that didn't matter. Then I said, show me. Scott hesitated. Show you what? The numbers, I said. If you want help, I need to see everything. He didn't like that. I could tell immediately. The way his jaw tightened. The way he glanced at my mom like she might jump in and redirect. She didn't. After a second, he reached into his bag and pulled out a stack of papers. Bank statements. Credit card bills. Notices. I went through them one by one. And it was bad. Multiple maxed out cards. Late payments stacking up. Accounts in collections. Fees on top of fees. No structure, no plan. Just chaos. What happened? I asked. Scott shrugged. Things got tight. I looked at him. Things don't get this bad by accident. He didn't answer. Of course he didn't. I kept going through everything. Quiet. Focused. But inside, I could see it clearly. Same patterns. Same entitlement. Same belief that someone else would fix it eventually. I set the papers down. I can help, I said. My mom let out this breath like she had been holding it for weeks. Thank you. Scott nodded, like this was expected. Like of course I would. But, I added, only if I handle everything. He frowned. What do you mean? I mean everything, I said. Accounts. Payments. Budgeting. No exceptions. No side spending. No hidden cards. If I'm doing this, I'm in control. Silence. He didn't like the word control. I could see it on his face. This is my money, he said. I held his gaze. Then fix it yourself. Another pause. My mom looked between us, nervous. Scott. He exhaled sharply and leaned back. Fine. Temporary. I nodded. Sure. That's how it started. The first few months, I actually helped. I set up payment plans. Negotiated with collections. Consolidated debts where I could. Cut unnecessary expenses. Created a system that made sense. It worked. Slowly, things stabilized. The calls slowed down. The pressure eased. My mom thanked me constantly. Every text, every call, it was, I don't know what we would have done without you. Scott tolerated it. But I started noticing something. He hated it. Not the results. The control. He'd ask questions about where money was going. Why certain payments were prioritized. Why he couldn't access certain accounts directly. Don't get too comfortable playing boss, he said once. I didn't respond. But I remembered. Because it sounded familiar. It sounded like him, years ago, standing in my room, holding my money like it belonged to him. So I adjusted things. Not in a way that would hurt them. Not in a way that would undo the progress. Just tighter. More controlled. I limited access. Redirected spending. Made every transaction visible. Every dollar accounted for. If he wanted money, he had to ask me. At first, it was small. Hey, I need some cash for gas, he said one afternoon. How much? I asked. 40. For what exactly? He stared at me. Gas. Show me the receipt after, I said. He didn't like that. But he agreed. That's how it kept going. Little requests. Little approvals. Little denials. Sometimes I'd say no. Not because they couldn't afford it. But because I wanted to see how he reacted. And he reacted. Short answers. Tension in his voice. That same edge creeping back in. But he didn't push too far. Because he needed me. And that was new. That's when I realized something. I wasn't just helping them. I was controlling the situation. And for the first time, he couldn't take anything without going through me. I didn't take anything from him. That's the part one kept telling myself. I didn't steal. I didn't lie. I didn't break any laws. Everything I did was clean. Structured. Documented. But I knew exactly what I was doing. At some point, it stopped feeling like help. It started feeling like balance. Scott didn't say it out loud, but I could see it in the way he moved now. Careful. Measured. Like every word had to be chosen before it left his mouth. That was new. Before, he never had to think twice. Now he did. The shift was small at first. Subtle. He'd ask for money and wait a second longer before speaking again. He'd check his tone, like he was trying not to trigger something. Like he knew there was a line now. And I had it. One afternoon, he called me while I was at work. I need to pick something up, he said. Can you transfer me a couple hundred? For what? I asked. It's just something I need. That's not an answer. Silence. Then, tighter tools. What kind of tools? He exhaled. Why does it matter? I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen in front of me. Numbers. Accounts. Everything neat. Controlled. Because I'm managing your money, I said. So tell me. Another pause. Shop equipment, he said finally. Send me the estimate. He didn't reply right away. Then I don't have it on me. Then wait until you do. The line went quiet. I could almost hear the frustration building on his end. That pressure. That same feeling I used to get when I stood in front of him asking about my own money. Except now, he couldn't do anything about it. Fine, he said, and hung up. I sat there for a second after the call ended, just holding my phone. It didn't feel good. But it didn't feel wrong either. That was the problem. Later that week, I visited the house in Cary. It looked the same from the outside. Same driveway. Same front door. But closer, you could see it. Small things slipping. Paint fading. Yard not as maintained. Inside felt different. Quieter. Controlled. My mom hugged me the second I walked in. Things are so much better, she said. We're finally catching up. I nodded, scanning the room. Scott was in the kitchen. He looked over when I came in, gave a short nod. Hey, I said back. There was a pause. Then he asked, you got a minute? I followed him into the kitchen. He leaned against the counter, arms crossed. This isn't going to be permanent, he said. I tilted my head slightly. What isn't? This, he gestured vaguely. You running everything. I didn't respond right away. I never said it was, I said. Good, he said. Because I don't need someone watching every dollar I spend. The irony almost made me laugh. You needed someone to stop you from losing everything, I said. His jaw tightened. Watch it. There it was. That tone. For a second, it felt like nothing had changed. Like I was 16 again, standing in this same space, trying to defend something that was already gone. But it wasn't the same. Because this time, I didn't feel small. I looked at him and said, or what? Silence. He didn't answer. Because he couldn't. That's when it hit me fully. He remembered. Not just the situation now. Not just the money. He remembered me. Standing there years ago, asking him the same kind of questions he couldn't answer now. I walked past him, back into the living room. My mom was setting something on the table. She smiled at me like everything was normal. Dinner's almost ready, she said. I nodded, sat down. And I realized something I hadn't said out loud yet. I didn't need to take anything from him. I already had everything. Access. Control. Information. And time. Time was the part he never gave me. Time to build something. Time to leave. Time to become someone he couldn't dismiss. Now I had all of it. Over the next few months, things got better. On paper. Debts dropped. Accounts stabilized. Payments stayed on schedule. Calls from collections stopped completely. From the outside, it looked like I saved them. My mom told people that. She told relatives, coworkers, anyone who would listen. Sloan fixed everything, she said. Scott didn't correct her. He also didn't agree. He just stayed quiet. Careful. But I noticed something else. He stopped trying to take control back. Technically, he could have. Nothing was legally stopping him from pulling his accounts away, making his own decisions, doing whatever he wanted again. But he didn't. And I think I knew why. Because deep down, he knew what would happen. He'd mess it up again. And then he wouldn't have me to fix it. So he stayed in the system. My system. And I let it tighten. Slowly. Not enough to break anything. Just enough to keep it exactly where I wanted. If he wanted to spend, he asked. If he needed something, he explained. If I said no, that was it. There were moments I caught myself pushing it. Asking extra questions I didn't need answers to. Delaying things just to see how he'd react. Reminding him, indirectly, who was in control now. And every time, there was this small voice in the back of my head asking the same thing. What are you doing? I ignored it. Because it was working. Because for the first time, he couldn't take anything from me. Because for the first time, I didn't feel powerless in that house. One night, it almost broke. We were sitting at the table. My mom was talking about something, work, I think. I wasn't really listening. Scott interrupted her. I need access back, he said. The room went quiet. I looked up. Access to what? My accounts, he said. All of it. I studied his face. He was serious. This wasn't frustration. This was a line. And then what? I asked. I handle my own money, he said. I nodded slowly. Like before. He didn't answer. Because we both knew what before looked like. That's when everything finally came to a point. I need access back. He didn't raise his voice when he said it. That was the first thing I noticed. No anger. No edge. Just steady. That made it heavier. I set my fork down and looked at him. Access to what? My accounts, he said. All of it. My mom froze. You could feel it in the room, like something shifted just enough to make everything quiet. I leaned back in my chair. And then what? I handle my own money, he said. There it was. Simple. Direct. Like he was trying to take something back without making it a fight. I nodded slowly. Like before. His jaw tightened. That's not what I said. It's exactly what you said, I replied. Silence settled in between us. Not loud. Not explosive. Just full. My mom looked between us like she wanted to say something, but didn't know where to start. Sloan, she said softly, maybe we can just. No, Scott cut in. Let her answer. I held his gaze. For a second, I saw it. Not the version of him from before. Not the one who laughed in my face. Just someone who didn't want to feel watched anymore. And, for a split second, I understood that. Then I remembered standing in my room, holding an empty box. I remembered asking him why. I remembered him laughing. You can take it back, I said finally. Both of them looked at me. What? My mom asked. You can take control back, I said, calm. All of it. Accounts, payments, everything. I'll transfer access tonight. Scott blinked, like he didn't expect that answer. Just like that, he said. Just like that. There was a pause. Something about it felt off. Like he thought there was a catch. What's the condition? He asked. I shook my head. No condition. My mom let out a breath, almost relieved. That's good, right? Scott didn't respond right away. He studied me, like he was trying to figure out if this was some kind of test. Why now? He asked. I shrugged. Because you asked. That wasn't the full truth. But it was enough. That night, I went home and did exactly what I said. I removed myself from the accounts. Transferred control back. Sent him everything he needed. No tricks. No hidden controls. Nothing. I stared at my laptop for a long time after I finished. It felt strange. Like I had just let go of something I had been holding onto for years. Not the money. The control. The next few weeks were quiet. My mom texted me updates. Small things at first. Everything's fine. We're managing. Scott didn't reach out. I didn't expect him to. Then about a month later, I got a call. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. But I answered. Is this Sloan Reed? Yes. This is Nate Briggs. I'm calling regarding an account tied to Scott Reed. Of course. I closed my eyes for a second. What about it? He's fallen behind again, Nate said. We're trying to understand what changed. I didn't say anything right away. Because I already knew the answer. He's handling it himself now, I said. There was a pause on the line. That explains it, Nate said flatly. I let out a small breath. Is there anything else? I asked. No, he said. Just needed clarification. The call ended. I sat there for a while, phone still in my hand. I wasn't surprised. Not really. A few days later, my mom called. Her voice sounded different this time. Not panicked. Just tired again. He's trying, she said. It's just harder than he thought. I didn't respond. We were doing so well, she added quietly. I almost said something. Almost stepped back in. Almost fixed it again. But I didn't. Mom, I said, you remember what it was like before, right? Silence. He has to deal with it, I continued. I can't do it for him. She didn't argue. She just sighed. I know. After that, things settled into a different kind of quiet. I didn't get involved again. Not when accounts slipped. Not when payments were missed. Not when things started to unravel. I stayed out of it. And for the first time, I wasn't the one holding everything together. Months passed. Then one day, my mom texted me. He sold the truck. That meant more than it sounded like. That truck was his. His control. His pride. The one thing he never let go of. Good, I replied. A few minutes later, she sent another message. Things are smaller now. But calmer. I stared at that for a long time. Smaller. Calmer. That wasn't something we ever had before. I visited a few weeks later. The house looked different. Less clutter. Less tension. Scott opened the door. For a second, neither of us said anything. Then he stepped aside. Come in. I walked in slowly, taking it all in. It wasn't fixed. But it wasn't falling apart either. It was real. We sat at the table. No tension. No power struggle. Just quiet. After a while, he spoke. You didn't have to do that, he said. I looked at him. Do what? Let go, he said. I held his gaze. Neither did you, I said. Another pause. Then, for the first time, he nodded. Not defensive. Not dismissive. Just acknowledging it. And that was enough. On the drive back to my apartment, I kept thinking about that. About control. About what it meant to take it, and what it meant to give it back. I got my money back. Not in one moment. Not in one transaction. Just slowly. Over time. Through everything I built after I left. But the part that stayed with me wasn't the money. It was that feeling. Standing there at 16, asking him why, knowing it didn't matter what he said. And now, years later, sitting across from him while he asked me for something, and I got to decide. I don't know if what I did was right. I don't know if holding that control for as long as I did made things better, or just made me into something I didn't want to become. I do know this. I could have kept going. I could have stayed in control. Kept tightening everything until there was nothing left for him to take back. But I didn't. I let him have it. And he struggled. And maybe that was the point. Because for the first time, he had to live with his own choices. Not mine. So I don't know. Was letting go the right move, or should I have kept control until everything was finally even?